January 2023, the streets of Sinaloa erupt into chaos. The arrest of a drug lord's son ignites a violent backlash. Cartel gunmen storm the streets, setting vehicles ablaze, blocking roads and exchanging fire with security forces. A year later, a violent civil war erupts within the Sinaloa cartel, leaving hundreds dead.
It's a war in northern Mexico. Two factions of the same criminal group, the Sinaloa cartel, in open conflict.
For decades, Mexico's cartels have battled for control of a multi-billion-dollar underground economy, trafficking drugs and smuggling migrants to one of their largest markets, across the border in the United States. It is against this backdrop Donald Trump and his new administration declare a new fight against the cartels.
Cartels are waging war in America, and it's time for America to wage war on the cartels.
But how does Trump plan to take on the cartels and their illegal trades? How will these powerful criminal organizations respond? And could this escalate to US military action on Mexican soil? January 21st, 2025. Donald Trump signs a wave of executive orders, each aimed at stopping illegal border crossings and what he calls cartel-driven crime.
Some of the first executive orders that we're seeing coming out of the White House were really targeted towards immigration policies.
That was one of the big things that brought Trump into power. This narrative that there was complete chaos on the southern border and that he was the guy to fix it.
There was a push on the executive orders to carry out mass deportations, to seal the US-Mexico border with heightened border security measures.
And the point of that is to try to shut down the huge numbers of people that had, over the last few years, been crossing the borders.
The Trump administration was really going to crack down on cartel activities with a particular focus on stemming the flow of fentanyl coming from Mexico towards the United States.
Cartels are believed to make up to $10 billion a year from drug trafficking, much of it from one deadly substance, fentanyl.
A snapshot of America's fentanyl crisis. It doesn't just look stark. An average of one person every 10 hours dies in this city of a fentanyl overdose.
The drug is now the leading cause of overdose deaths in the US, claiming tens of thousands of lives every year.
Cartels in Mexico import the kind of constituent chemicals from China. They then create it in laboratories.
It is very easy to cross the border with synthetic opioids. These are pills that look similar to prescription pills, very easy to hide.
In 2022, over 110,000 people died in the US from drug overdoses.
And so we have seen a real pushback on behalf of the Trump administration to crack down on cartel activity and to really break transit routes.
But does shutting down the cartel's drug trafficking routes actually work? Drug seizures at the southern border in 2025 are at their lowest level in 3 years. And fentanyl deaths are dropping, but is something else behind the decline?
Improvements in the distribution of Narcan, which brings people back from overdoses, has increased. Treatment of fentanyl overdoses in general has improved.
If you really need to deal with the fentanyl crisis, you don't send troops to Mexico to fight the cartels. In reality, the United States is using that excuse to pressure Mexico to also serve as the guardian of the southern border.
With strict border policies, the US is pressuring Mexico to fight cartel violence. And there's another tactic in play, one Trump likes to mention.
150% tariff. Tariffs. Tariff. Tariff. Tariffs. Tariff is my favorite word.
Claudia Sheinbaum has been doing everything that he has been told to do with the threat of tariffs.
In the last several months, the Sheinbaum administration has been dismantling the critical mass of these organizations.
That's fairly common as they get into negotiations with the US.
The Mexican government sent high-level cartel members to the United States to show the Trump administration that it's serious about reducing cartel activity in Mexico.
For decades, the US and Mexico have fought a war on drugs, targeting cartels and organized crime. The US has poured billions into Mexico's military efforts, funding operations to take down cartel leaders and disrupt trafficking networks. But despite high-profile arrests, groups like the Sinaloa cartel have grown into multi-billion-dollar criminal empires.
These are perhaps the most violent criminal organizations operating in Mexico.
We are talking about networks that form a very complex system, formed by actors that dedicate mainly to illicit activities.
But they also have a very clear hierarchical structure. In the Sinaloa cartel, we had the two main founders, El Chapo Guzman and El Mayo Zambada. Since the arrest of the Mayo Zambada in Texas last year, there has been a lot of infighting and has really brought about a battle-ridden state.
The war in Sinaloa is a stark reminder that taking down cartel leaders doesn't always dismantle the organizations. This struggle for dominance escalated into violent confrontations, leading to over 1,000 casualties and widespread instability.
What you cause when this happens is a lot more fragmentation among these groups and the necessity to send more military to deal with the issues. So basically, you're probably going to generate more violence.
But I will say that the Sheinbaum administration has been very effective in debilitating the Sinaloa cartel in the last several months. Many criminals are now hiding because of the fear facing not only Mexican authorities, but perhaps for them, even worse, being extradited to the United States.
Now, the Trump administration has officially designated 6 Mexican cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, or FTOs. While this doesn't grant the US direct authority to launch military action against the cartels, the threat still looms.
Would you think about ordering US Special Forces into Mexico to take them out?
Could happen. Stranger things have happened.
There's an argument to be made that it's setting the groundwork for a potential unilateral military strike.
Whether to bomb Mexico, whether to launch what people around Trump would call limited raids, and what the Mexican government would certainly call an invasion.
I personally think that this is not going to happen, because if you bomb the garden of your neighbor, you are going to be affected too.
You could have unexpected consequences. Then the United States has a southern neighbor, which is also its top trading partner, facing very violent situations that could very well affect the economy, the priorities, the security cooperation of the United States.
So what next for the cartels?
The cartels, now that Trump's in power, are worried. There's drones flying over their territory. They're afraid that the US is going to bomb them.
Even fear itself from the policies that are coming out of the Trump administration have already reduced some of the production.
They are aware that their income from fentanyl is going down. They are aware that their income from migrant smuggling is going down.
It's not business as usual anymore. They have to be more nimble, and they have to find additional avenues to get their products across the border.
But there could be unintended consequences too.
Black markets are going to grow. The routes are going to be more dangerous. They're going to improve their methods, and we're going to have criminal groups collaborate more effectively.
As the border tightens and the threat of military action grows, will Trump's policies end so-called cartel crime in the US? Or will they adapt to find new ways to feed the demand for their illicit trades?